Imagine losing your corporate job after years of climbing the ladder thinking you had it all figured out. And suddenly, everything changes. That's exactly what happened to Anja Holthoff. At 60 years old, she found herself out of a stable customer service position, staring at a future that felt uncertain. Like many in her shoes, Anja didn't want to wait around for opportunities that might never come. She needed a way to earn, and fast. A few months after sending out hundreds of resumes and getting nowhere, she turned to the gig economy. In 2016, she started driving for Uber in Atlanta. At first, it was just a car, a Hyundai Sonata, and a hope that she could make ends meet. But her first taste of freedom and income came with a single black car ride on Lyft. It was just over a mile, and she earned $21. That small win sparked an idea. Maybe she could really do this? Maybe she could take control of her life again. Driving for ride-hailing apps wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Anja learned fast, managed her time, and started building a comfortable lifestyle. She could feed her kids, save a little money, and even take a vacation or two. For someone stepping away from corporate uncertainty, it felt like freedom. She was hustling, but on her own terms. For years, Anja thrived. She didn't just drive, she leveled up. She moved from regular Uber rides to black car service, where the pay was higher, and eventually managed a fleet of 3 cars. Every mile, every ride, she learned the ins and outs of the business. She was no longer just a driver, she was a hustler, in control of her income and her schedule. But then, the unexpected hit. This year, everything started to change. The rides slowed, the city seemed quieter, and Anja's earnings began to fall sharply. What once took her a single day to earn $300 now took 2, and even then, her expenses were rising. Gas, car maintenance, insurance, it all added up. She was literally driving just to pay the next bill. The numbers told a grim story. Last September, she made $4,549 on Lyft. This September, just $166, a dramatic drop that no hustle alone could cover. Anja noticed fewer tourists in Atlanta, quieter hotels, and half-empty conference rooms. Business travel, which had once been a reliable source of income, was now down. Even Uber itself seemed to be changing the rules. New Waymo rides were cheaper, and customers began ordering lower-tier options, undercutting her carefully built black car income. The very thing that had given her freedom now felt like a trap. Anja, once confident and in control, was left wondering what her next move could be. Anja tried to adapt. She accepted rides that were below her usual black car tier, sometimes Comfort or even standard UberX. Every ride paid less, but at least it kept her moving. Still, it wasn't enough. The more she drove, the more exhausted she became, and the money just didn't match the effort. The emotional toll hit hard. For someone who had spent a decade building independence and stability, this sudden collapse of her income was crushing. She found herself sitting in her car, tears streaming, wondering if she'd made a mistake leaving corporate life behind. The freedom she once celebrated now felt fragile, almost fleeting. Even her network of friends and former colleagues couldn't offer much comfort. Corporate jobs, they said, weren't any safer. At 60, Anja felt trapped between a gig economy that no longer paid what it used to and a corporate world that seemed unwelcoming, if not impossible to re-enter. Every option felt risky, every decision heavy with consequence. And yet, she refused to give up. The question became not just how to survive, but how to find a path forward, something sustainable, something that could once again give her financial security without sacrificing her health, dignity, or independence. Anja started exploring alternatives. She looked beyond driving, researching side gigs, delivery apps, and freelance opportunities. But the challenge wasn't just finding work, it was finding work that paid enough to replace her lost income without wearing her down physically. She considered tutoring, consulting, even starting a small online business. Each idea had potential, but also hurdles. Tutoring required marketing herself and finding clients. Consulting meant competing with younger professionals with fresh corporate experience, and starting an online business carried financial risk she could barely afford. Meanwhile, the competition in the gig economy kept intensifying. With more people losing traditional jobs, ride-hailing services were flooded with drivers, pushing rates even lower. Anja realized she wasn't alone. Many older drivers were facing the same reality, but there was no clear roadmap for escaping the downward spiral. And it wasn't just the money. The constant uncertainty and exhaustion started affecting her health and emotional well-being. Long hours behind the wheel, declining pay, and an unpredictable schedule made every day a test of resilience. She began asking herself the hard questions. Could she pivot her skills? Could she find stability outside of ride-hailing? And if so, what sacrifices would that require? The answers weren't easy, and the clock was ticking. Every day that passed with reduced earnings added pressure. But Anja knew she had to act fast, because waiting could mean losing the independence she had fought so hard to maintain. Faced with dwindling earnings, Anja decided to take action. She started networking with other gig workers and joining online forums where drivers shared tips on maximizing income. Some suggested switching cities, others recommended specialized services like airport runs or premium rides during peak hours. She also began exploring part-time office roles and remote work. Even though her corporate experience was over a decade old, Anja realized some companies valued her customer service skills, reliability, and hustle. She applied for administrative positions, call center jobs, and even virtual assistant gigs, anything that could provide a steady paycheck without the unpredictable swings of ride-hailing. Meanwhile, she adjusted her spending. Anja cut back on personal expenses, delayed non-essential purchases, and reevaluated her car maintenance budget. She realized that surviving in the gig economy wasn't just about working harder, it was about working smarter and protecting every dollar she earned. But even with careful budgeting, there were days she questioned if the effort was worth it. The mental and emotional toll of seeing her earnings drop while staying on the road, coupled with physical exhaustion, made her wonder how long she could sustain this lifestyle. Yet, giving up wasn't an option. Every day she pushed forward, learning to adapt, pivot, and find small wins wherever she could. By combining strategic gig work, exploring new opportunities, and tightening her finances, Anja slowly began to regain a sense of control. It wasn't glamorous, and it certainly wasn't easy, but it was proof that even in a declining market, resilience and creativity could open new doors. Anja knew she couldn't rely on luck alone. She needed a plan. That's when she discovered alternative gig opportunities beyond ride-hailing. Delivery apps, freelance platforms, and even tutoring services started catching her attention. Some offered flexible schedules, and a few even paid better than mid-tier Uber rides. She experimented with food and grocery delivery, realizing that while the per-ride pay was lower, the volume and tips often made up the difference. Then she tried specialized services like courier work for small businesses, which not only paid more but also provided repeat clients. Slowly, she built a patchwork of income streams that reduced her dependence on one app or one city. Anja also invested in learning new digital skills, basic bookkeeping, social media management, and customer support software. These skills opened doors to remote part-time work, giving her the stability she desperately needed without giving up her freedom on the road. She realized that the key wasn't just finding more rides, it was diversifying her work to survive the gig economy's unpredictability. Even as she took on new opportunities, Anja never lost sight of self-care. She started scheduling breaks, connecting with friends for support, and setting boundaries on her driving hours. The combination of practical strategies and emotional resilience began to pay off. Slowly, she felt a shift, not just in her wallet, but in her confidence. By the end of the year, Anja had crafted a hybrid lifestyle, part ride-hailing, part delivery, and part remote work. She wasn't earning what she once did at her peak, but she had regained control over her finances and her life, proving that adaptation and creativity could turn a crisis into a new beginning. By the time the next year rolled around, Anja's situation looked very different. She had stopped relying solely on Uber, and her income had stabilized through a mix of ride-hailing, delivery, and remote work. But the journey wasn't just financial. It was personal. She realized how fragile the gig economy could be, especially for someone over 50 trying to maintain a decent lifestyle. Anja began sharing her experience online, joining forums and mentoring newer drivers. She wanted others to know that the industry could be unpredictable and that surviving required more than just hours behind the wheel. Tips on tracking expenses, maximizing tax deductions, and building multiple income streams became her way of giving back, and it also reminded her of how far she had come. Looking back, she could see the lessons clearly. Flexibility matters more than loyalty to one platform. Self-investment pays off faster than hoping for better rides. And resilience, both financial and emotional, is the real key to surviving in a shifting economy. Her story wasn't just about Uber or Lyft. It was about adapting, finding opportunities where others saw dead ends, and refusing to let setbacks define your future. For many gig workers, Anja became proof that even when the numbers are scary, there's a path forward, but only if you think beyond the car seat. Anja's journey is far from over, and that's exactly the point. Her story isn't just about one driver or one city. It's about millions of gig workers navigating an unpredictable economy. The ride-hailing industry promised freedom, flexibility, and extra income, but it also revealed the hidden risks, the sudden drops in demand, and the emotional toll that comes with uncertainty. For viewers, the takeaway is clear. No matter your age or experience, relying on a single income source can be dangerous, but adaptability, creativity, and persistence can open doors you never expected. Anja didn't just survive the downturn. She learned, evolved, and found new ways to thrive. The question now is for you. In a world where traditional jobs and gig work are both uncertain, how would you pivot if everything changed tomorrow? Could you find a new path, like Anja did, or would the system leave you stranded? Her story leaves us thinking, reflecting, and maybe even planning differently for the future. Because in the gig economy, it's not just the miles you drive that matter, it's the choices you make off the road.